What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. CB Tactical, it's Cam. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about pistol red dots, specifically some red dots that I recommend, red dots you should stay away from, and then also a little bit of information for my folks out there who just kind of don't know what they're looking at. And I'm just going to talk to you guys about that. This video is going to be a little bit more so directed towards people who are just getting into pistol red dots and maybe want to get their first one. And maybe for you guys that know a little bit more, you already have a pistol red dot, maybe this will give you some information that you just didn't know about. First, I'm going to talk about the two different types of red dots there are out there. There are enclosed emitters and then just open emitters. The difference between those is pretty simple. Enclosed emitter, basically there's a housing that is surrounding the actual red dot. Open emitter, that emitter is open to all of the elements, stuff like that. So what are the benefits of having an open emitter versus closed emitter? One, closed emitters are really cool because it does keep all of the elements out of your actual emitter for the red dot. So things like rain, dirt, mud, stuff like that. For me personally, I have noticed open emitters are just fine. Closed emitters offer a little bit more protection, assuming they're properly weather sealed. What that means is if you haven't heard of closed emitters before, or red dots that are just closed off from the environment, sometimes some of them aren't properly sealed, and it allows for things like condensation if you're going in from a very hot environment to an air-conditioned room to build up potentially in that red dot. It doesn't happen with all of them, but it does happen. It's something we should take note of, and it's something you definitely want to avoid because you can't clean it out, and that's just something we don't want to happen. You're going to have to go and warranty a red dot and do all of that shebang. You don't want to. With open emitter red dots, like I said, they are open to the environment. They're open to things like dirt, rain, mud getting caught in your red dot, lint even, especially if you're concealed carrying. I will say it is not that much of a problem to where closed emitters are the only way. Open emitters are still great. There's a lot of great open emitter red dots out there. I carried an open emitter red dot. I shot an open emitter red dot for a very, very long time. Never had any problems with it, okay? You're gonna wanna keep that in mind when it comes to choosing your red dot. Maybe you're doing something a little bit more duty focused and you want a closed emitter, or you just want open emitter because it's easier to clean. It's easier to clean out that emitter if something does happen, if you get some dirt, water, things like that in there, you can take care of that with an open emitter. When it comes to the red dot choice, you're gonna wanna keep in mind the size of the actual dot itself. A very common one you're going to see is like 2 MOA, 3.5 MOA, 2.5 MOA, all the way up to like 9, right? There's also 1 MOA red dots out there. And basically for most people, you're going to be fine with a 2 MOA to like a 3.5. I would recommend staying away from something like a 1 MOA, mainly because even though that dot is very small, very precise, I've noticed with me personally that if you have an astigmatism, that dot might starburst a lot more. And what starbursting is pretty much every time your eyes see the light, there's like strands of it going around the dot pretty much. Some people, it's more severe than others. Mine was pretty severe, but I would recommend staying away from those 1 MOA dots. But when it comes to the opposite side of that, there's like the larger dots. I also am not a big fan of those personally with how I shoot, how much I shoot. I prefer anywhere between 2 and like a 3.5 MOA dot. For me, if I'm shooting pistol further out at range, I want to be able to see as much of the target as possible, right? And then also too, that same problem is still persistent on those bigger dots just because there's more light there. Like I said, it all depends on your eyes. When you're going to get a red dot, I do recommend you go to the store, pick a couple of them up, and just look at them, turn the brightness all the way up, turn it down a little bit, see what that red dot looks like. Because all emitters are pretty much different. They're gonna track differently for your eyes. For some of my friends that have great eyesight, they don't like Trijicon red dots. Even though those are pretty expensive, very premium options, the emitters, the technology that goes into them is great. The dot just may not look good to your eyes. So I just recommend going to a store, making sure you look down a bunch of these red dots and kind of get a feel as to what works for your eyes. So now that you guys know a little bit more about the different types of red dots out there, the different sizes of dots that are out there, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the companies you might want to steer clear from and the companies that I would personally recommend you guys go for your first red dot or whatever red dot you're going to get. So talking about those companies to steer clear from, there's a lot of different red dot brands out there, guys. There's so many. There's a million of them that are being sold in like different stores, big box stores that sell guns, gun stuff. but not all of them are made the same. I would strongly recommend staying away from red dots like Sealy, Crimson Trace, those kinds of red dots. And it's not because they're on the cheaper side. It's just because I've heard good things about those red dots, but I've also heard the opposite. I've heard a lot of bad things. It can be hit or miss with the quality of those dots. So I would just recommend steering clear from those. Another one, potentially is O-Side. I've heard good things about them, but then, you know, the opposite of true. I just don't quite trust them yet. I know they're new, very popular, and they're kind of all the rave right now, at least when it comes to budget red dots. But there's plenty of budget red dots out there that I would recommend. Just stay away from those. So now that you know that, we talk about some red dot brands that I trust and I think are perfectly fine to get. First, Holosun. I remember back in the day when Holosun was, you know, coming out with a lot of pistol red dots. A lot of people didn't like them, mainly because they are made in China, stuff like that. But they've come a long way, and I personally trust them on all of my pistols. I do have a friend out there who did have a Holosun red dot that did go bad on him, and he did have some warranty issues. But for me personally, I haven't dealt with those. What I've shot with the most is Holosun on my pistols. They work fine. They're great. I really like them. But I do recommend Holosun. Primary Arms also makes decent pistol red dots for the price. And of course, they also have that new line that came out that is mostly made in America or entirely made in America. And I've also heard good things about that. It's an enclosed red dot. But that's also another brand that I think is fine for you to get. And then there's also stuff like Vortex, the Vortex Defender, the Vortex Venom. Vortex red dots used to have a lot of problems in the past. Now with that new line that they've come out with, I haven't had any problems with them, and I hear that they're pretty good for a lot of people out there. I haven't heard of any issues, and they're also a great budget option. Also, there's the big hitters out there. There's the Aim Points, and there's the Trijicon. With Aim Point, because it's enclosed red dot, personally I was going to get an Aim Point Acro. I was doing a lot of research on it. I didn't end up going with it, mainly because with an Aim Point Acro, that red dot has to be married to that gun because of the mounting system. It's a very robust mounting system, but for me, I do like switching out red dots on a lot of my guns. So that wasn't something that I really want to do because I'd have to buy plates, and I just don't want to do any of that. But keep that in mind if you're getting something like an Aim Point Acro, that red dot is going to be pretty much married to that gun. There's also your Trijicons. Trijicons make very good red dots. They're very expensive, but they are proven. They're really good. They are so expensive to the point where I can't recommend them for everybody. But if you're an individual who's buy once, cry once type, Trijicon isn't a bad way to go. Like I said, some companies that you're going to want to focus on when it comes to buying your red dot, they're going to be Holosun, your Vortex, Trijicon, Aim Point as well. They're really good. Just keep in mind that if you do get an Aim Point Acro, that red dot is going to be married to that gun, unless of course you don't mind buying plates for the Acro for all of your pistols. All right guys, so now that we talked about the different companies that you're going to want to steer clear from and like the different companies that I would recommend, I'm going to actually go into personal recommendations. All of these I do have experience on, so I've shot them extensively, and I trust them when it comes to what I would pick, what I would recommend to people. This is what I'd recommend to my friends, and I'm going to recommend to you guys. So starting off in that cheaper category, I do have the Vortex Venom. This is going to be a 3 MOA dot, so really good size. It's also enclosed. This one is going to be sitting in that like 200 to like 175 credit range. Strongly recommend, just because one, it's a very good budget option. So of course, if you're someone who's looking to get something a little bit less inexpensive and you're not trying to get something like the Trijicons, this is going to be a really good option. I've shot this pretty extensively, and I trust it. It's been on a couple different pistols that I have, and it's something that I'm really comfortable recommending, comfortable shooting. I'd even be comfortable carrying this. And then you're also going to be getting a good battery life out of this. It's a very simple operation. There's not too much that goes into this red dot like some other ones here, and I do prefer my red dots that way. So even though more expensive ones might have different features and stuff like that available to them, personally, I would always prefer something like this where it's just on and off, not a bunch of different reticle options, things of that sort. And like I said, this is a really good option. Also, one thing you're going to want to keep in mind of when it comes to any red dot you purchase is going to be that mounting system. This one's going to have a Delta Point Pro mounting system. It's a good mounting system, but I do like having mine kind of in line. But because this handgun specifically can mount multiple different kinds of red dots on it. I obviously don't mind it because this can just stay on here and live on this gun. But I do prefer the RMR pattern just because I have so many different red dots. But if you're someone who's only getting one, or you want to stick with one different type of or one kind of mounting system, perfectly fine. And I would recommend this one. So really good option. Into something that's going to be a little bit more expensive, but I trust and I've had for a long time, is going to be the Holosun 507C X2. I've had this red dot the longest. It served me very well. So this red dot is going to be a 2 MOA dot. You're getting a couple of extra features on there. You're getting that solar failsafe, which is going to just basically be charging your battery for you, but in very small amounts. It's not a substitute for a battery. In case your battery is getting close to death or something like that, you can rely on the solar failsafe to, of course, keep your dot lit. Then also, this one is going to be a open emitter, so it's open to elements. I've had this for about 4 or 5 years. Haven't had any issues in terms of when I'm training with it, shooting with it, and things of that sort. Like obstructing the dot, cleaning the dot, obviously, is very easy. And then, of course, this one is also going to be an RMR mounting pattern, which is really good just because I like to keep everything, universal. So with this one, I can put it on any other pistols that I have because it's that RMR mounting system. Also with this one, you are getting different reticle options. I don't really care for that personally. I just prefer a regular dot, but some people might, especially if you're first learning on a red dot. Even though I wouldn't recommend it, there are different reticle options in here. So really good dot in that 250 to like 300 credit range. You can find it on a sale for even cheaper, I'm sure. And then there's also the 407C, which is also really good. It's just kind of a stripped down version of this, but I would still recommend that dot to people. I had a friend who had that dot and it did end up breaking, but he had it for a very long time and it was a very good dot. That's what made me get this one. So I do recommend the 507C X2. So now if you want to carry a smaller, slimmer gun, there is the RMSC footprint out there as well, which will allow you to mount smaller red dots. Right here, I have the Holosun EPS carry. Pretty much very similar features as the 507C. I do recommend this one. I've had this on this Shadow System CR920 XP for a while. This one's going to be a little bit more expensive, into like the 350, potentially 400 credit range, depending on where you get it at. But this one, same features. It has that solar failsafe. It has the multiple dots if you like that. And then also incredibly reliable. It is enclosed, but this is a really good red dot. I would recommend it if you are getting more of a slimline pistol for the RMSC footprint. This is the only one of these kinds of red dots that I do have experience on, so keep that in mind. There's definitely other ones out there. Vortex has a line of a few of them, and those are really good, but I do trust the EPS carry. Now for the red dots, are going to be serving a little bit more of a duty purpose, something that you're going to want to carry if you're going to be working with your gun, or if you want to conceal carry too and you're more of a buy once, cry once type of person. Now keep in mind, with these red dots, they are very expensive, and you can honestly get a lot of the same feature sets out of other red dots, if not more, and pretty reliable red dots too. So starting off with my personal favorite, this is going to be my Trijicon RCR. So this one has a 3.25 MOA dot. It's completely enclosed, and it also has a lot of the same features that your regular RMRs would have had, or your RMR Type 2s, things like that, where it's that same RMR mounting system. The way you're going to mount it is going to be a little bit different, but this dot is really good, mainly because it gets really bright. Also really reliable. It's enclosed. The glass in the back is completely flat, so it's pretty easy just to wipe away and clean. And something like this, it lives on my main concealed carry pistol, which is my Glock 19, and I trust it. Very reliable. Shot a bunch of rounds through it, and I just really like this red dot, and it's something that I do trust. For me personally as well, this is going to be something that if you are just going to be buying one red dot, I would strongly recommend this one if you can, if budget allows, just because very reliable. I haven't had any issues with it. I trust it with my life, and I think it will serve you very well. So on to the next one, which if you prefer more of a open emitter red dot, the RMR HD is going to be a good option for you. Like I said, this one is going to be pretty expensive, it's going to be running between like 775 credits to potentially 800. This one's really good. It comes with more features than the Trijicon RCR because it has a forward facing light sensor instead of most red dots, which have a light sensor that pretty much just takes the light from around the red dot instead of what you're actually pointing at. That is a pretty cool feature, but personally, I don't use it. I manually set the brightness for all of my red dots, and it's just not something I get much use out of. Of course, this one does come with different reticle options. Also, I don't really care for that. When you're buying an optic like this, it's mainly because the track record's very proven on it, very reliable, very tough. This one is something, of course, that I strongly recommend if you are someone who's going to be buying something for like a duty sense, or you're going to be working with your handgun. The buttons on it, really big, really easy to press, a little bit mushy, but still very good. Also, you're going to have that RMR mounting footprint. Again, like I said, I prefer having as many of my pistols as possible having that RMR footprint. Also, the battery life on this one, really good, really good. You're getting strong battery life. This one doesn't have a solar flare, and it's a little bit bigger than your RMR Type 2s. Not too much bigger, not like an SRO, but still pretty big and very good even if you're concealed carrying. So I do strongly recommend the RMR HD if you want to spend a little bit more money, or you're going to be using this for some sort of work or duty type of application. So guys, there's a lot of other really good red dots out there. I do recommend that this isn't the end all be all in terms of red dot pistol videos. I do have a couple of them if you want to go check them out, but I do strongly recommend if there's something you're curious about, do your research on it before you purchase it. Just don't buy the cheapest thing, or just because someone else says they got 50,000 rounds through their Crimson Trace red dot, it's a really good red dot. Don't trust that, y'all. Stay away from those. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate y'all watching. If you liked what I had here for you today, please like, subscribe. Really appreciate it. I want to say thank you to you guys, of course, for watching the video. I want to say thank you to all my subscribers out there who have, of course, watched me and, you know, enjoyed my videos. So yeah, and then thank you to the people that helped me record this, to my beautiful camera woman who's behind the camera right now. And yeah, so God bless you guys. Stay safe. I love y'all. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.